There's one common mistake many people make when they start getting into Bitcoin, and it can cost you a lot of money. Most people don't even realize they're making it. They think they're buying into the same idea, but they're not. When I first learned about these, I didn't see the difference either. But now, the difference couldn't be more clear. I think there are 5 main reasons why Bitcoin is different than crypto and why it should be the only thing you're thinking about. First, Bitcoin has a limited supply that cannot be changed. Unlike many cryptos that have no hard caps, or hard caps that can be potentially changed, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. If you're going to have a money supply that is controlled and manipulated by companies, then the only difference from our current fiat system is that now private companies are in control of the money supply instead of the government. And that's not any better. The whole point of Bitcoin is to provide a sound monetary system that's trustless. No intermediaries required. Rules that everyone has to follow and that don't change. If you are playing a game of chess or any other game, you agree upon the rules before you start playing, so the game is fair. You don't want your opponent changing the rules mid-game and saying that the queen can move anywhere. Checkmate. You especially want it to be fair when it comes to your time and labor that you store in money. The next reason is probably the least understood. What people misunderstand about Bitcoin is that it isn't just a technology, it's a protocol. Technologies and protocols are two completely separate beasts. Technologies can have many winners. Think Apple and Samsung, all the different brands of cars. These are technologies. A protocol, on the other hand, it's kind of like a way of doing something, and they're built in layers, and they're winner takes all. New protocols are rare, and a great recent example is the internet. The internet started out being hard to use, but it got built out over time and had layers that were built on it to give it more functionality. From TCP/IP to the application layer, these layers were built to support what we have today. There's only one internet. You're either on it or you're not. Other protocols to think of are fire, electricity, email, and telephone. There's only one of each that people use. These are all open, so once it's discovered, it's not undiscovered. We can see the protocol layers being built on Bitcoin. We now have layer 2s and layer 3s on Bitcoin that solve the many problems that altcoins were built to solve, making those altcoins obsolete. Other cryptos have tried to improve Bitcoin by making it faster, scalable, or handle applications. But people fail to realize that Bitcoin is a protocol. And just like there is no second internet, there will be no second Bitcoin. And everything will be built in layers on top of Bitcoin. The next reason is that Bitcoin is backed by physics. Unlike many other cryptos, Bitcoin uses proof of work to secure the network. Many major cryptos use proof of stake to secure their networks. Bitcoin miners run computers that validate transactions and then try to solve a hard math problem based on those transactions. Whoever solves it first gets to add the new transactions to the Bitcoin ledger and gets rewarded with new Bitcoin. It is very similar to gold, where people who mine gold have had to prove their work by going and getting it out of the ground. Bitcoin mining works in the same way. It is just digital. Proof of stake, on the other hand, relies on people, usually called validators, locking up their capital, usually in the form of the crypto's token. These people then validate transactions and add them to the blockchain. If they misbehave or are malicious, then money is deducted from the capital they've locked up. Validators are paid proportionally to their total locked up funds. So the more you have locked up, the more you are rewarded. Why is this important? It is important because proof of stake is inherently more centralizing. In proof of stake, wealth is what determines your voting power, and your stake earns you more stake, entrenching your power in the network. Proof of work, on the other hand, ties influence to energy, hardware, and operational costs, which create friction and a real-world check. That real-world cost, that is what makes Bitcoin's security impossible to fake. A major difference between Bitcoin and crypto is that Bitcoin has no managing team. Every single other crypto out there has a management team, and they're often just trying to make money off of it. And some are just downright pure scams. They also often launch with all of the supply already in existence and they give themselves large amounts of it just to dump on retail once it goes live. Sounds fair, right? Bitcoin has no managing team, no PR, no strategist. Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin 17 years ago and never revealed his identity. The closest thing to a team in Bitcoin is the group of developers that maintain the node software. But that now too has become more decentralized. With no management team, there is no attack vector to try to shut down or litigate or blackmail Bitcoin. It removes this single point of failure. Also, since there was a fair launch and no one team allocating themselves a portion of the Bitcoin supply at the beginning, Bitcoin is an inherently fair system from the beginning. Which gets into the last reason, that Bitcoin is decentralized and censorship resistant. Most cryptos can be controlled by the managing team and the validators to pause the network or lock funds in the case of emergency or hack. This defeats the whole purpose of a immutable, decentralized blockchain. The whole point of the tech was so that it was trustless and secure, but this effectively makes these cryptos a glorified, centralized, public ledger that uses blockchain. Bitcoin is secured by over 100,000 nodes and over 1,000 exahashes of compute per second that are all spread out geographically across the globe and are hard to target. A digital attack on Bitcoin is impossible, not just because of the cost, but because it is impossible to hide. To gather the required hardware and electricity, it would take years of buying up the entire supply chain of miners, which would cost tens of billions of dollars. The electricity costs to then run those miners, if they were successfully acquired, would run into the hundreds of millions of dollars per week. All of this just to make the hardware and the coins they acquired worthless immediately due to their attack. Trying to perform this attack would be obvious and could be prepared for, and is why no government has attempted it. Instead, people are trying to attack Bitcoin from a different angle. Bitcoin was designed to be used as money, not just held. And there are people who benefit from you never realizing that. To learn why that is and how to not fall for it yourself, watch this video next. I'll see you there.